31-0 still stings, but of course, Urban Meyer and his staff looking toward 2017 with probably just minutes after the final score hit the scoreboard. Brandon Zimmerman from the Buckeye Battle Cry in to update us on Ohio State football as we do each and every Wednesday. Brandon, thanks for jumping on board. We always appreciate the time. And despite having such a young team, this is just Ohio State's issue, with maybe a smattering of a couple other elite programs across the country where they have such a young team, but they still lose 6 underclassmen to the NFL. So we've got Noah Brown, Raekwon McMillian, the elite secondary, Gareon Conley, Marcus Lattimore, Malik Hooker, Curtis Samuel, of course, the only offensive player in the nation with 700 yards rushing and receiving. Kind of talk about what they're losing here and possibly who could step in and fill their shoes.
Well, it's kind of the nature of the beast with Urban Meyer. Buckeye fans are stoked that he's bringing in 4- and 5-star guys every year. But at the same time, you can't be upset when these same guys are getting first-round grades after only playing 1 year. So it's just something that Ohio State kind of has to live with and, enjoy what they bring, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 years for the Buckeyes. So this year, once again, the secondary was just hit hard. Past 2 years, they've lost 7 guys in the secondary. And this year, it didn't really hurt too much. With the recruits they have coming in, hopefully it works out so the secondary is okay again. This year, the only guy that they'll have returning is Damon Webb back there at safety. Looking at guys like Denzel Ward, who played quite a bit this year, stepping into a starting cornerback role. A guy like Kendall Sheffield, who just committed yesterday, a 5-star kid, JUCO, former Alabama guy, will probably step in and start right away opposite of Ward now that Lattimore has officially committed to going to the NFL. So those are the kind of guys that you'll look at the cornerback spot. Jeffrey Okuda, another 5-star cornerback. Sean Wade, another 5-star cornerback, are guys that could be in the mix. Damon Arnett, who was the nickelback this year, is another guy who could, push Sheffield or Ward for one of the starting spots. Big question is going to be back at safety, taking Malik Hooker's spot opposite of Damon Webb. The guy everyone kind of expects is Eric Smith, who was, a top-rated safety coming out of high school, has battled injuries the past couple of years, but spring game, he shows that he can make plays. It's just a matter of him staying healthy. It sounds a lot like his Glenville teammate, Lattimore, who came into this year battling the hamstring stuff. Everyone knew he was good. He just hadn't put together a healthy season. So hopefully Eric Smith can kind of do the same thing back there. At middle linebacker, you've got Raekwon McMillian leaving, which everyone kind of expected there. He's just been such a dominant force there in the middle and a great guy on campus. The expectation there is for Dante Booker, who was the starting outside linebacker before he got hurt this year, to slide over to middle linebacker and have a linebacker core of Chris Worley, Dante Booker, and Jerome Baker, which should be a pretty strong linebacking core for the Buckeyes. Outside of defensive back, the biggest hit was out at wide receiver, as you talked about. Curtis Samuel was one that everyone kind of expected. No one would have been surprised if he stuck around just to kind of refine his wide receiver skills, but no one's shocked that he left. He was just, easily the Buckeyes' best offensive player this year. He's a very unique talent, and, it should show well at the combine for him. The one that kind of surprised everyone was Noah Brown, who was the quote-unquote #1 wide receiver for the Buckeyes this year. Had a huge game against the Sooners where he caught 4 touchdowns. After that, he really didn't do too much. So that's what kind of shocked everyone. So wide receiver was hit hard, where 2 of the 3 starters were now gone into the pros. So I think you've got to look at guys like Benjamin Victor, who was a true freshman this year, didn't really play early on, got a few snaps against Michigan, got a few snaps against Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl and showed that he can come up and make big plays. He's a tall guy, fast guy. I would expect Benjamin Victor to come out in that Noah Brown #1 wide receiver kind of spot next year. Opposite of him, I think you're looking at either Austin Mack or Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell was a starter most of the year this year. Didn't really show too much. He's more of a return guy, I think. So I think Austin Mack, who was a 5-star guy coming out last year, will probably slide into that role. Possibly Trayvon Grimes, who's a 5-star kid this year. He's 6'5", he's got height, speed, coming off of a injury. So he's another one that could go into that role. As far as H-back replacing Curtis Samuel, it's probably going to be Demario McCall, who had a few flashes of brilliance this year as a true freshman. It just seemed like every time he did play, he was, busting off large runs and backing up Mike Weber, which really didn't give him too many carries, but he had quite a few carries against the Cornhuskers, who's, an upper tier type of team. And he had a great game. So he's expected to jump into that Curtis Samuel role there. Other than that, Ohio State, as you said, they were pretty young this year. They've got a lot of guys coming back. The defensive line's definitely going to be a strength for them. Being able to return Tyquan Lewis, who was the Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year, was huge. Getting Tracy Sprinkle coming back off of a pretty bad leg injury when he was the starter coming into this year is pretty big too. So it should be a pretty good year for the Buckeyes with the coaching changes and everything.
Noah Brown, for one, is hoping that some lazy NFL scout watched the Oklahoma game, then signed and sealed his report and didn't look at it again. Because, in that game, never had blazing speed, but he proved to be a physical wide receiver that we thought was going to be a force and an impact on the field each and every week. But he was high pointing the football. He was muscling defensive backs. He just really looked the part for a guy that was fairly non-existent for the rest of the season in regards to making impact plays down the field.